Good morning, everyone. Today, Alexia, Jeffrey, and I will be giving a lecture on Liang Qichao. Liang was a Chinese scholar who lived from 1873 to 1929 during the Qing dynasty. The presentation will be structured as follows. I will start off by presenting Liang's definition of rights consciousness and his arguments surrounding it. This is pertinent as it is one of his key ideas that readers should sit up and take note of. Alexia will then continue by elaborating on rights consciousness and providing one key passage in which Liang explains rights consciousness. Jeffrey will then end the presentation by relating rights consciousness to the broader social context. Liang begins by stating that if one wants to attain rights and even preserve their rights, they ought to begin by looking at rights consciousness. Liang's assertion is that, for one possessed of rights consciousness, the painful feeling directly and violently stimulates one, and the motive to heal oneself once aroused cannot be controlled. In other words, rights consciousness is essentially the uncontrollable desire to heal oneself once invaded, in order to rid oneself of the painful feeling that comes with being invaded. Liang then states that the strength of rights consciousness truly depends on a person's character. He assumes that slaves and thieves will necessarily take all insults that come their way, and assumes that someone of perhaps a higher social status and moral standard will react more strongly towards these insults, and will do anything in his or her power to rid himself or herself of those insults. This implies that the extent to which one experiences rights consciousness varies from person to person, although arguably, perhaps not in such a blatant dichotomy way. With all this said, what key passage really highlights the concept of rights consciousness, and how does rights consciousness apply itself to real-world circumstances, if at all? Alexia will now elaborate on this.
If one wants to attain rights, if one wants to preserve rights, then the place to begin is truly with rights consciousness. The body provides the essential condition for a person's physical existence. Consider an organ, like one's liver or one's lungs, or an external digit, like one's fingers or toe. If one of these are not to be right, who would not feel pain and rapidly think about how to heal it? Now, bodily pain is evidence that one's inner organs have lost their harmony. It is a sign that the organ has been invaded. Healing involves warding off the invasion in order to preserve oneself. At the metaphysical level, there are invasions like this, and for one possessed of rights consciousness, as soon as one is invaded and oppressed, the painful feeling directly and violently stimulates one, and the motive to heal oneself, once aroused, cannot be controlled. One urgently thinks about ways to resist the invasion and restore one's former state. Those whose bodies are invaded and who nonetheless feel no pain must be apathetic and unfeeling. As for those whose rights are invaded and nonetheless feel no pain, who would choose to be like this? Thus, those without rights consciousness, it is acceptable to call them apathetic and unfeeling. So in this passage, Liang parallels the physical existence with the metaphysical existence. So he uses the example of our response to pain in our physical being as an example of how we should be rights conscious when our rights are being harmed. So, with our physical being, if we feel pain, we're going to react, we're going to try to do anything to remove the factor that is harming our physical existence because we're trying to protect our life. But it's the same in the metaphysical existence when we try to remove anything harming or oppressing our rights. This is in order to protect our humanity, in contrast to protecting our life in the physical being. So we have to protect our humanity according to Liang, because our humanity is the only thing that makes us different from animals and makes us not base. So that's very important. So then, to protect our metaphysical being, we have to be strong in rights consciousness. And he goes on to say that those without rights consciousness are apathetic or unfeeling. So this is clearly problematic. It's denoted in a negative tone. So So basically being apathetic means that we'll be unable to protect our rights because we won't be conscious of them. And clearly that, based on our previous argument, means that we won't be able to protect our humanity, which makes us less than human. And that is problematic to Leon. Okay.
In fact, Leon's theory that rights consciousness is used to heal violations at the metaphysical level can be used to explain how today's politically correct movement, or PC movement, has broken out. Now, for example, in October last year, demonstrations were held across the Yale campus after a college master's wife published her opinion that students should be allowed to dress however they like for Halloween. And so what we're seeing in this image right here is a demonstration that occurred across the Yale campus. And so this was in response to condemnation from students on the usage of bindis, Native American headgear, and other cultural items as costumes for Halloween. Thus, students across campus took this as an endorsement by the college administration of cultural appropriation. And so, again, what we see here in the left photo is a Native American headgear being used as basically a costume for a music festival. And over there at the bottom right, we see bindis being used as makeup or costumes for people in music festivals. And so here we see a modern-day illustration of the exertion of one's rights consciousness. Students of minority groups who had seen their cultures appropriated were metaphysically violated, or as Chloe mentioned, invaded, when their cultural traditions were flippantly misused. So, thus, in demonstrating, they hope to elicit an apology from Yale, and perhaps more importantly, spread the message that cultural appropriation should not be tolerated. Here we see these students choosing to exercise their rights consciousness, and hence attempt to heal the invasions and violations they believe they have sustained on a metaphysical level. Indeed, sometimes we ourselves are also complicit in violating others on a metaphysical level. Indeed, we also see the rights consciousness taken into consideration when trigger warnings are shown before a book or show begins. In order to prevent one from experiencing violations on a metaphysical level, publishers have taken steps to warn readers or watchers that there may be offensive material ahead. Thus, if one were to read a trigger warning, they might not proceed with the material and thus not experience metaphysical violations. Now, perhaps a more obvious demonstration of rights consciousness and its effects are in the recently instituted US federal laws that legalize gay marriage. So, in his manifesto, Leon claims that the laws of citizens who are strong in rights consciousness will be ever improving. Consequently, new laws are established to reflect the developing rights consciousness of the different groups of people. And as Chloe mentioned, this would be due to the stronger characters of the LGBT community. For example, in the United States, the rights consciousness of the LGBT community has grown stronger over the past century as they have been less willing to accept discrimination against them. Thus, a federal law was passed recently legalizing same-sex marriage in the country. In this way, the development of the rights consciousness in the LGBT community led to new laws being established. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you.